Howdy, I'm up here in my shed. It's a 12 by 16, 592 square feet. I put a little bit of electrical in here, but I just want to kind of show some of the 12 volt system that I designed and put into the shed. There's no electricity up in my property, but it's a very beautiful piece of property. You know, look down the road I put in. I have a lot of work to do, and I want to have a electrical system in here. You know, I'm going to also put a 110 system to put, just in case I want to run some power tools, and the 110 will work off an inverter or generator. So let's take a look and see what I got here. As you can see, not much work has been done. And today I'm going to go ahead and put in a 12 volt three-way switch. Some people don't think you can wire with 12 volt with these Romex, but certainly you can. And as a matter of fact, it's a good wire that you use for it. It takes a little bit of caution because the wiring scheme colors are different for high voltage versus low voltage. Let's look here. I've used my Romex material for my 120 line, but also I've used it here for my 12 volt system. There is no problem doing that as long as you keep in mind of the coloring of the wires. And let me go over that. Well, here's some 12-2 Romex material, and this Romex material is set up for 120 volt, and the coloring scheme for wires for 120 volt is black is phase 1 or positive, white is neutral, and the uncoated copper wire is for ground. Here's some 12-3 Romex material. The 3 now represents that they've had 3 coated wires that are in there. They got a black, a red, and a white. Phase 1, phase 2, neutral. Of course, this is the ground. Now this is the wire I used to set up a 3-way switch in my basement. This is not what I'm using here, but I could have used it. In the 12 volt system used in the United States, red is positive, black is negative. There is no neutral, it's just positive and negative, and that's how the system works. We just need to be careful when we are wiring positive to positive and negative to neutral color or white, and that's how we're going to daisy chain our system together. Is that this is positive, this is negative. Usually they're marked on here positive and negative, and that's the color scheme we need to use. Now we will drive this into the Romex material on the black primary and daisy chain it off. So you just need to keep in mind that if you're using Romex material, you need to understand what you're wiring as being positive or negative. Now, being consistent with my Romex material, I'm using the white material as the negative, and I'm using the black as the positive, but you can revert those two. You could keep the black as being the negative and use the white as the substitution for the red wire or being the positive. So I'm going to put a light switch here at the bottom of some stairs. It's going to be represented by the ladder. I need to put those stairs in. And at the top of the loft, I'm going to go ahead and put in another switch that I want 3-way. I want to be able to turn it on and off depending on what location I'm at. I'm going to put a light fixture here. It's going to be an outdoor light. It's going to have a 7-watt 12 volt bulb in it, LED. And so I need to pull my wire, and I have to choose my wire if I'm going to use some Romex 12 gauge, 14 gauge, or maybe some strand at 12 gauge that I have left over. So I need to pull those runs from one switch to the other switch. One of the first things we need to do is worry about, do we have the right equipment and material to do the job. I'm going to go ahead and use some 12 gauge solid 50-foot wire that I have laying around. Might be an overkill for a single light and a rung of a 7-watt bulb. I do have some stranded material here I can use. I don't know if I have quite enough. I know I do on the solid. This happens to be stranded. That would work fine. All depends on the fuse box I put in there, and if I go ahead and use this 14 gauge wire, I will go ahead and put in a 15 amp fuse. I can go to 20 amps with this 12 gauge wire. The wire choice is important to you. I also have some of this 14-2 Romex laying around. Again, it's 14 gauge solid wire, and I could use that certainly for this run because I'm only lighting up a 7-watt bulb with this, and that just gives me about 0.583 amps for the whole run. So certainly a 15 amp circuit will work fine. Now we want to make sure we have a good terminal set, especially if we're going to use stranded wire. Now I plan to use the stranded wire for the traveler wires between the switches. You also want to make sure you also have heat shrink tubing. The blue that I'm showing here on the terminals are made for gauges 16 to 14. If I'm going with that solid wire that happens to be 12, I probably will go with a yellow connector. Now, the fork is probably the better of the two, or the spade. It will fit better in the light switch. Now you can use the ring terminal, but you have to unbolt that screw, take it all out. It's pretty tight on these switches, and then put it back in. So I'd rather use the spade. Notice how well it fits into the terminal there on the light switch. Some other equipment you need to have is some wire strippers, and this also cuts the wire. If I'm using stranded, of course I need to put the connectors on, so I need to be able to crimp the connectors. Get a nice one. This is about 30 bucks to buy. It's a really good crimping tool. When I'm using my stranded, I always use this. You could get away with using, again, plain wire cutters out of your toolbox. A needle nose is going to be necessary if I'm going to use the solid. I have my 3-way switches ready to be hung. Some boxes, electrical boxes to put the switches onto. The fixture I'm just going to use is going to be just be a outdoor lighting fixture. Might change it later to make it look nice. I could have went with maybe an RV 12-volt system up there, and that might have given me enough light. I don't think so. I'm going to put 2 lights in here. A 60-watt equivalent standard 12-volt bulb. Some good electrical tape, and a screwdriver set and a few pins to mark with. Now we're about ready to show you how to wire up a 3-way switch for a 12-volt system. Some people ask, well, can I use a 120-volt switch for 12-volt? And the answer is absolutely yes. You know, those little switches that you buy for your RV and the boats are so dang expensive. You know, what I spent for these right here, I bought them yesterday. Bought these right here, and they're $1.27, so that's better than the $7 to $12 12-volt switch that you can get. Let me show you one of those. So here's a 12-volt switch. You buy this package, it costs you about 12 bucks. You can get them a little cheaper. You know, coming from China, you can get them for about $7.99. And they will work, and there's a proper way of connecting these to make a 3-way. I'm not going to go over that today. And in the package you'll come with the connectors that you need to crimp on. Again, you're going to use one of these to crimp these on. Again, I'm not going to show this particular method because I don't like spending this much money for stuff. I'm just dang cheap. So I went ahead and bought my 120-volt switches, $1.27 yesterday. Now how much you guys get them for? It could be cheaper on the internet. It can be, I just went to one of those big box stores and bought them because I needed them today. And I actually came up here and already had them. And go, oh crap, I just wasted $3. So I may have to take these back. Now, one of the problems I have with the 12-volt system used for RVs and boats is in a shed or a tiny house is that I like to put boxes in. Now these do not come with boxes, and if you do buy one that has a box, they're $27 with the plate. And you go, man, that's really expensive. Most cases you buy them, they come with a fixture that looks like this that you bolt into the drywall. But notice that really doesn't fit well. Notice the hole pattern. It doesn't fit well in basic electrical box. So I just had a bright idea. I'll just make my own. So I had some students as a project make me some injection molds. So I have an injection mold that does a single, so this single switch can be put in here and put into a box. So if I did that, this will fit right into that particular cover. Take that cover, and that whole pattern does match. So I can hang the box and put that onto the wall, and now my switches will work. I've done that for several things, but you don't have to sit there making injection mold to do this, right? I just do a project that was, sellable for those who want to do tiny houses and need a switch. I had them design a 2. Again, I can get that fit in there. And this is 3D printed. I have a mold also that injection molds these out, and that will hold in there, so I can put these on the wall. And I'm going to be doing that, and I'll show this later on when I set up this part of the 12-volt system. I have other ones too. I have a 3 and a 4 that fit on a 2-gain box. So this is how the plates work. Notice how nice this would look. Now if I put the drywall on here, how easy it is to come in and wire that and bring the wire and the runs out, just like you would a regular 120 volt system, though this is going to be a 12 volt system. So that's how well these plates work. And with a 2-gain box, I can put a 3, or I can put in a 4. And this is so much better than trying to put these covers on drywall and have them rip out of drywall, or trying to find a stud to bolt one screw in there. You also want to pick up the proper switch. A 3-way switch differs from a 2-way switch. The 3-way switch basically has 2 traveler terminals right here, and then we have a common that comes in here for our hot wire, and the travelers go out to the other switch. You're going to go ahead and buy the boxes that you need to have, the covers, and the switches. Now this all together is fairly inexpensive. These boxes here were about 40 cents. These plates were 57 cents, and these switches were $1.25. So not very expensive versus that 12 volt switch I was just showing you. Then we need to wire these up properly, and basically the switches, you got the black screw and the black screw, just to look at it, they need to be face opposite to each other. So if you notice this, one needs to be flipped around, and the brass screws right here, they call the whites, are going to come across there and be aligned to each other this way. So I've went ahead and did some quick wiring. I used stranded on here, but notice here when I have my boxes here, I just mark these. This is when they're together. I mark 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay. Notice that the blacks are opposite to each other. The white or the brass are aligned to each other, just opposite. Okay. So notice how they're just opposite to each other. 2 will be strung to 2. 1 will be strung to 1. If you're using Romex material, you can use the white in there. That's okay. Just make sure if you're using the white, you just mark it. A lot of people will take a Sharpie pen and mark it around every so often, showing that it is a power. So these do have power in it. They are live. Okay. This is not return. This is pure live wire. Black and red is fine to use. Black and black is fine to use. It doesn't matter. But you do want to make sure you designate what the wire happens to be. Now you do got your main power coming in. Okay. And it's going to go here. And this one's going to go to the light. Now notice how this works here. Notice that if I have the boxes in the wall, okay, maybe opposite for what you're looking at, in the boxes like this, put in there. So these light switches are being wired out, but connect 1 to 1, 2 to 2. Of course, this is going to be 20 feet apart for me, but other than that, the wire will come up through the back, come up through here, into the box, and then to the light switch itself. Then we're going to go ahead and hook up live wire here. So this wire will go up to the light fixture, and then the white will go back as neutral back to the home. So I'm just stripping some material. I can use that from home and call it my home run. And I do have an extra copper wire in here, 12 volt system. We don't use it, so we'll just ignore it. We'll just cut that off. I got the return white from the fixture. This is my run. This is my run to the first light switch, and then we'll take another run to the light fixture. I'm going to strip it about 3/4 of an inch out. Take that, make a little curl around. So I got a little curl around here to put into the screw. And this right here, I'm going to go ahead and hook this into my light switch. So I'm going to put this into my black screw. Tighten it down. And that's going to go back to my positive on my fuse box. Those put in, I need another black to come off of here. Turn this up. Turn that up. This is coming from the black of the light fixture. Give it a little twist. Get that put on here. Match up the white. Do the same thing. You got the light fixture ready to go. I'm going to put the bulb in. That's the expensive part of the deal here. Let's see if we can get the three-way switch to work. So I got it set up here. If you notice here, it's just a 12 volt system that I got set up or demonstrating. I'll be setting this up on the wall right here, up to that light fixture, up the ladder, and upstairs to the light switch I have up there somewhere. What I've showed you, a 12 volt system. I got hot coming into here from the 12 volts. I got two hot wires going from here to the three-way switches. I'm going to go across here, out here, up to my light fixture, and then right here out of my light fixture I'm going to have neutral coming out back off to home. Turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. So the three-way switch for a 12 volt system, not very difficult. This is the easiest way to deal with it. This is how I'm going to set it up here in my shed, and it should work fine. Again, I have a 60 watt equivalent bulb in a regular fixture that's made for 110. No one says you can't use that for 12 volt. Just make sure you put a 12 volt bulb in the fixture. If you put a 110 bulb in there, it won't be very bright at all. I hope this helps out. But I want to throw this together and show you how this works. I hope you enjoyed the video. Because it works! We did it!